Thank you so much for joining me today, Jacob Restituto. You create all kinds of awesome content. I think I found your channel through educational videos, trying to learn more about YouTube, copyright claims, but turns out you're also an artist yourself. And so I'm really grateful to have you on the show today to ask you a few questions. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Quite the intro. It makes me feel quite good about myself with the intro right there.
You should. You should. I notice you're very consistent with your content, very eye-catching thumbnails, and it just makes sense that your channel is growing the way that it does. So it's always fun to see various content creators and their styles.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Tell me a little bit. How did you get into the whole world of YouTube? I know you're a musician and you react and create educational content. How did it start for you?
For me, YouTube has always been a tool in my tool belt.
Okay.
So, like you said, I'm a musician. First of all, again, thank you very much for that incredible intro. I'm a musician myself, and that's kind of like the core of what I do. And I've always been, dabbling all the different social medias, whether it be Instagram or TikTok or Facebook.
Right.
And YouTube just ended up being the one that ended up sticking. For example, I dropped out of college in 2014 to do music full time.
Okay.
And I was posting relatively consistently on most of the platforms, as consistent as I could. But then in 2019, I said, I'm going to create some sort of schedule, a calendar where I'm going to post every single day on every single platform.
Wow.
And I had a calendar. I batch filmed content, which is typically what I still do, where I film a bunch up front and then kind of schedule it out as I go. I batch filmed content, and I had a schedule. Once a day I'd post, and it was all different kinds of videos. It was like me breaking down my own music. It was me reacting to a song, which I like to call they're called reaction videos, but really they're like analysis and breakdown videos.
I agree.
They kind of get lumped into the reaction, category, which is fine, but that's a very, very broad category, and for people that are familiar with it, it sometimes has a bad rap.
Yes.
So then it was all types of content. I have a podcast, so it would be podcast content.
Wow.
And then from there, it was YouTube just ended up being the one that started picking up. So in 2019, videos started going what I call viral for me. So when I had 500 subscribers, a video with 3,000 views was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of views. And I was like, this really works. Like this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
When a video would typically get like 12 or 15 views, you know what I mean?
Right.
So when a video got 3,000, like this is really cool, and that helps the drive of keeping it consistent. Of like, okay, if this is working, which is not really a great thing actually, because I found that consistency is. It's better to be consistent regardless rather than be driven by the consistency of the analytics.
Okay.
Because as soon as you're driven by the analytics, when they change, you're not as driven. And that is something that's really, really, really hard to maintain.
Okay.
So,
that's very interesting.
So yeah, do you want me to keep going, or do you have a follow-up questions in
share.
there?
No, share. I got a couple of questions, but I want you to just share your journey. It's interesting.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, as I continued along my journey, that was 2019, 2020, the ball was continuing to roll. I think I started 2020 with about 2,000 subscribers, and which was a pretty significant growth just in general from like the 75 that I had to 2,000 in that 1 year. And then we went 2020, everybody that was on social media exploded. And then I went from like 2,000 subscribers to like 20,000 subscribers, and like then it was like, oh, this is legitimate, and like this, I was starting to make some serious money from it. I was giving guitar lessons. Throughout my career, I had given guitar lessons and worked a lot of odd jobs, and trying to keep things afloat. And then from there, in 21, I was like, okay, this could, I think, can be my full-time job now. It was paying enough. It was making me more than it was like from guitar lessons or working. I did a little bookkeeping for my parents own a construction company, so I just working a lot. I worked at an art gallery for a while, so a lot of different hats. But it was making me more than all of that. So I said, I'm going to focus completely on this. 21, 22, and here we are in 23. It's been kind of, ebbs and flows of the creator industry, as they call it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we are. So all that being said, though, I see personally a YouTube as a tool in my tool belt to put myself as a musician out there.
That's awesome. I admire your journey and your persistence because I think that's really key in this world.
Thank you.
You said a couple of interesting things. Well, for one, I would say, I suppose your ability to do all these various jobs has probably benefited you to be able to be consistent and keep pushing things out and trying different things, which I think could be an encouragement for anyone that wants to create. Not to give up, not to niche themselves in. But you said a couple of interesting things. You said what was viral for you, and I like that mindset. To me, that's a very positive mindset because it moves away from focusing only on analytics, like you say, or comparing with other people and looking at it as in context of yourself being the best you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also love that you don't just call them reaction videos because you're right. Even in my introduction and when I reached out to you, I said I'm working on this documentary, right? The psychology of reaction videos. But quite frankly, it's a very big ocean of options. And I have found that the analytical videos, the ones that dive deep, that have substance, resonate with me personally much more.
Sure.
How is that for you with, as obviously you're a producer, you're a content creator more than you are a consumer, but do you ever look at reaction videos and analysis videos, and which resonate with you most?
I'm curious the phrase of that question because you assumed that I'm more of a creator than I was a consumer, and I'm curious why you assume that, because that is the case, and I'm curious why you assume that from me.
I assume it because I see you creating so much. You're writing songs, you're putting them out there. You're regularly creating videos. You're really good at your thumbnails. There's a level of quality there. They're not just, at least I'm assuming, right? But they're not just like thrown together. One can tell that you've either done your research or that you've experienced trial and error. And you are constantly just covering various platforms, as mentioned, the education, the videos, the analysis content. So to me, in order to have time to do all that, I believe you have to be more a creator than a consumer. Those who mindlessly scroll all day won't have time, nor do the creative juices flow like that, in my opinion. The more I create, the more I am in a creative mindset. And I don't think that happens so much when all we're doing is just consuming and feeding ourselves. But that's my opinion.
Absolutely.
So tell me
I think
what you
it's a very
think.
valid opinion. I very much agree.
Okay.
And so I did a little research on you as well, of course.
Okay.
I want to. No, I think that it's important. I appreciated you coming prepared with the interview, and I wanted to be prepared as well. So, if I'm correct, you work in the mental health department, right? Like you're a therapist, psychologist?
Correct. I worked my master's is in counseling psychology. I'm not a licensed therapist, but I worked as a therapist and as a teacher. And so now focusing on videos and content creation, I try to tie that in. So I'm not, working outside of the home as a therapist any longer, but I offer mentoring and I try to tie in the psychology with my world music analysis. And I'm a singer-songwriter as well. So that's why there's that love for music and psychology. And I've just found my niche, if you will, by
absolutely
tackling that
I was
angle.
Watching some videos on your cover page where you post all your covers. Absolutely. It sounds great, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Some of them are like, yeah, but I just keep trying over the years.
Well, exactly, man. You go back to some of my earlier videos, absolutely. So it's a journey, right? And quality is subjective. Right. So what you might not like very much, people very much might like. So
that's valid. That's really good.
Absolutely. So back to your question. I don't actually remember the question too much, other than the fact that you mentioned that I was more of a consumer. Oh, what do I watch? What do I think?
Yes. What resonates with you and why? Right. Because you mentioned reaction versus like analysis. There was a difference. You made a distinction, and so I'm curious as to what you think about those and what you consume.
Absolutely. So I am not much of a reaction consumer. Period.
Okay.
Every once in a while I do like watching a reaction, they call them, like from like the big producers of like the major like GQs or like stuff like that. And from that, like it's typically a professional in their field reacting to something. So whether it be professional hunter reacts to scenes in movies, or professional marksman reacts to war movies, or Matt Damon reacts to his top favorite, characters that he's played. Like, so there's all these professionals that have an intellectual, they can share something of experience based on what they, as opposed to, somebody just sharing their opinion. I personally, most of the content that I watch is educational. I have a lot of, side businesses or hobbies. I'm essentially an entrepreneur. I love business, right? So I have a garden, a very large. It's more of a farm than a garden.
That's awesome.
Where, thank you. Where I have weekly subscriptions where people can come pick up their vegetables during season, and stuff like that. So like it's
Sheesh, what do you not do? That's incredible. Sorry,
thank
continue.
You. No, thank you. I appreciate it. So that being said, though, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was me.
No. So a lot of the content that I watch is like education on that. Like, oh, how do I grow how does this plant grow? What can I do to extend the season, or what can I do to what plants best grow in this weather or in that weather, or greenhouse this or greenhouse that, heating and this and fertilizing, and so a lot of the stuff that I watch is based on that. I'm also very into hunting at the moment, so like learning about hunting and stuff like that. Just this whole agricultural. I'm a big history buff, so another thing that I like watching is a lot of history stuff. Like I love the 1700s. I think it's such a fascinating time. So like watching about learn stuff like that. I just like learning. So I'm not super I don't watch a ton of entertainment videos.
Okay. So it sounds like anything that you would consume, for the lack of a better word, would be education or something to better you and advance you.
Exactly.
Why do you think that is for you? Now, of course, there's a market for that, right? People that come for education, most likely, again, assuming your target audience are also people who want substance and are not just looking for a face going, oh my gosh, subscribe, right? But what is it in you before we talk about the psychology of the audience?
Yeah. I don't know if all of my audience wants the educational aspect of it.
Okay.
I think that a lot of them do, and I think that that's why a lot of them keep coming back. But there are plenty of channels that do better than mine that are just straight entertainment over education.
Right. Why do you think? Before we, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, please.
Before we talk about the psychology or what drives it for the audience, what drives it for you that you want to consume things that advance you, that educate you? In your core, as personal as you'd like to share.
I want to be the best version of me that I can be, which is sometimes a fault, because I think I sometimes can hold myself to too high of a standard. But I don't like to give up, and I really, really like to try to just learn and be the absolute best that I can be.
Right.
So whatever that might be, and
right.
Whether it be baking bread or making songs or the garden, I just don't like to lose, and I want to be the best that I can be.
I think that's an awesome motivator. You said something interesting, though, which I think speaks of self-awareness on your part, if I may say so, is that you're saying that's who you are, right? That's how you find, I suppose, value, meaning for your existence. But you mentioned sometimes it's a fault. How do you think that ties into, and if this is too personal, please, no pressure to answer, but how do you think that ties into your consumption with social media? You know how they say sometimes social media makes us less social, more antisocial. It is sometimes overstimulating. We're being bombarded nonstop. As someone that wants to be the best you, is there a way you find balance? Is there a way that downside plays out for you with
Absolutely.
Consumption?
Personally, if this was not my career, I would have no social media. I don't enjoy it. It makes me feel gross inside. I never leave social media outside of YouTube. I don't necessarily consider social media like YouTube. I see YouTube more of like a media, not like a Netflix or a Hulu.
Yes.
Very different than an Instagram, TikTok. I've never left Instagram or TikTok or anything like that and said, "Wow, I feel great." I really enjoyed that time, and I feel great about myself.
Interesting.
Always.
I can agree with that.
Leave that platform either saying, "Wow, I totally just wasted 15 minutes of my life." I like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, last night I was pissed off at myself because I was annoyed. I actually was. Because I am an early riser, a very early riser, and it was getting late for me, and I was like, I started scrolling because I wanted to look something up, and these platforms, I have to give them credit, they're brilliant, because once you open that app, it doesn't matter what you were looking for, because they caught you with whatever was on that front page.
Yep.
And now I'm gone and down this rabbit hole, and all this time spent by, and I was like, I wanted to go to bed, this. Even if I was awake, I could have been reading or doing something that actually I enjoyed, rather than just this pull of just one more video, and it's
Pulls you
left there
in.
being like, I didn't.
Dang it.
That didn't
Yeah.
benefit my life in any way.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a purpose. Like I personally, I love cooking and I love learning. Again, like I said, when I don't love like reading articles as much. So when I want to like research something specific, a gardening topic, a music topic, how do I do something in my production, or how do I do something, whatever the case is, for YouTube, I will almost always, 98% of the time, open up either like YouTube or TikTok and search that in that and watch 2 or 3 1-minute videos.
Okay.
That's how I learn most of my new things.
Okay.
So, but that's very different than like just mindfully scrolling, as opposed to like
Right.
this like very like,
True.
oh, this is very interesting, you know, like, oh, how do I fix this microphone,
Right.
you know, and then
There's a
searching
purpose.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That to me is an interesting keyword. You said there's a purpose, and I suppose when there's a purpose and a goal that you're achieving, or some type of addition to you as the best version of yourself, there is a level of fulfillment that ties directly with the purpose, what you set out to do. But you pointed out interestingly that the way that these social media platforms, and I suppose a lot of those big reaction channels that seem to be so successful, even though they kind of lack substance, they seem to be really good at pushing this need to keep looking, right? To keep scrolling, like you said. Why do you think that, I'll call it a pseudo purpose, okay, I'll call it the fake purpose, is so effective with people? Because to your point, it doesn't really have a purpose, right? It's not educational, it's not bettering you. But why is it so well received by people, even though it's fake, I would say? It gives fake purpose, fake satisfaction, a fake dopamine fix. Why do you think that's so well received nowadays?
Are we talking media in general, or like videos in general, or reaction videos?
Well, media in general.
My dog's a little loud at the moment.
No. That's actually a great question. I'm speaking in general, but we can definitely hone in on reactions since that's like the direction that I'm going in more specifically. So either generally with reaction videos, what are people getting out of
I'll
this?
address the. I think personally, the reaction videos are a little different. I think.
Okay.
Even the most. I think how do I want to phrase this? The ones that some people might deem the most shallow of videos.
Yeah, I think that's a good word.
I think that people don't mind. Most viewers don't mind, because I don't necessarily think that they're going for. Most people are going to learn something. I think that. So, I personally never understood reaction videos. The only reason I discovered it somehow is scrolling through YouTube. I don't know if I was looking for something or what. Like, this was years ago, 2018 or 2019. Okay. And I came across this guy reacting to a song, and I was like, that's really interesting. So I clicked it, and I was watching this, and I was like, this is kind of really interesting. But like, I said, I think that I could add so much more value. Like, I just do it differently.
Yeah.
Like, so he was talking about what he liked, what he didn't like, you know, what he thought was cool. And I was like, this is a really interesting concept, but like, I have so much more. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different. It's a very different like, I'm not knocking the guy. He obviously had a huge following actually. And I was just like, oh, I could do this just differently. And I could take my knowledge of music production, music theory, and instruments and just general music industry knowledge and put that in there. And that's what I started to do. But I don't think most people are looking for that. I think most people, so that being said, that's why I started creating them, and they seem to be well received. But if you look at my comments section, there's at least 10% or 8% of my comments are saying you're talking way too much.
I get that too.
Oh, which is okay, because the reason I think that you and I might get that is because we're doing more of an analysis breakdown.
Yeah,
you know, like I checked out some of your videos as well.
Yeah, I have to say that to people. I had a person say something like, "Oh, you like to hear yourself talk," and I responded. I said, "I do."
but
there's nothing wrong. That's what they came. I mean, maybe they didn't come for that, but that's what I'm offering. Like, if you don't like what my store has to offer, sorry, go somewhere else. Like, we're diving deep here. This is not a shallow, oh my gosh, girlfriend. You know, it's just not. Sorry, it's not. I'm not sorry, actually.
So, I never understood it, and I started, trying to I used to respond for at least a year. I responded to every single comment that came through my YouTube channel. So I learned a lot. And that being said, like, one of the things I learned about was why people watch reaction videos. And one of the best descriptions I found was the fact that so many people watch reaction videos because they want this experience. Like, there's a tremendous joy in sharing.
Yes.
So what do you do when you get a promotion at work or something really great happens in your day? You want to tell somebody. You call your spouse, or you call a friend, you call your mom, and you say, oh my gosh, look what just happened to me. Like, this is really, really cool.
Yeah.
When you find something really cool, like an amazing video or a really cool song, well, what do you want to do? You want to share it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that sharing aspect is one of the main reasons that people like reaction videos, because when somebody recommends, hey, check out this new song to you on your channel, and you check it out, they get this satisfaction of like, oh my gosh, look, she's experienced. And then the second aspect I think people really enjoy is because then they get to experience that vicarious joy of you experiencing it for the first time. Because I hear a song and I might love it, but I'll never ever have the joy of experiencing for the first time again.
That's well said. Yeah.
So many people want that and enjoy that and get joy out of now you experiencing it for the first time.
Yeah.
So once I understood that, I was like, that makes so much more sense as to why people enjoy reaction videos.
I agree. I can relate to that as well, because for me in the beginning, I almost, dare I say, ridiculed it, because I thought the idea of watching someone watch something was silly.
Yeah.
Especially if we're talking about someone just mindlessly sitting there and then perhaps even faking a response or something.
Sure.
But as soon as I started realizing, for one, what you just said, understanding why it means so much to people and that there's a whole community behind it. Especially with some of the content where we go deeper, where people are coming out of the woodworks, sharing their loss, their suffering, and it's this community of real people that are looking for life, for encouragement, but then also finding the joy in the educational part. And I think you're right. Perhaps more people are looking for that joy of sharing. I like how you worded that, because to me it goes with this need for community. And I guess on social media there is less availability if we're all behind screens in our day-to-day life, right? People are busy, they're less social, they have less connection, so we kind of find that online. And I guess it would make sense that that's perhaps a higher priority than looking for education at first sight.
Can I add this as well?
Please.
This is something I'm kind of just processing as we speak, but over the summer my brother-in-law had mentioned to me, he's like, he was talking about social media and the way we or entertainment in general, and how he was reading a book and how he going forward wants to try to approach entertainment. And he said personally, he's like, one thing I want to try to do is minimize my amount of, I guess you could call it, solo entertainment. Because if you look back in all of history, entertainment has always been a group, not project, but like it would always be a group entertainment. You would go, I mean, even not that long ago, 50 years ago, you go to the movies, you go to a play, like Shakespeare, you'd go to a play, you'd go see a concert, like all of this, the gladiators, you were in the arenas, like it was always sports games. It's always group activity. And it really wasn't until like the television and the radio, or the radio and then the television, and then, everything subset of that, is that it became less and less group centered and more solo centered, where it'd be like with the radio, it was still to some degree, you're not at a concert with 50,000 people or even 2,000 people anymore. Now you're just around with your family listening to the radio, and it might be 7 people or 4 people. Then 20 years later, 40 years later, it was a TV, and now it's just 3 people watching, and now it's the phones where it's just one person watching.
One person scrolling. Wow.
But I'm curious if that's why, to some degree, reaction videos are so well received, because it is this, whether it be real or not real, level of community, which we all crave inside of this entertainment.
I really appreciate you pointing that out, because as you were going through various examples, I even thought of solo artists that would perform, but it was still a group of people that came to see, right? Mozart, right, Rosalie? Beethoven and Mozart, or painters, right? People coming to see or listen to their compositions or see their paintings, but it was a group of people that gathered physically to listen, even if it was a solo act or...
I think the creative process is different. Like you mentioned, like solo acts, that's very different. The creative process is very different than the entertainment process. Like I create very often on my own. And that's just being by myself. In fact, I find that I create the best, I'm a very early riser, way before anybody's awake. But the sharing process is totally different, which is a group process.
And that's what you're referring to. Not so much the creation process of how many people are involved in the performance, if you will, for lack of a better word, but the sharing. You know what? And that's really, really well put. I agree with that.
On the receiving end, as a
receiving end,
viewer,
yeah. No, I'm
it would
following.
always be a group.
Right. No, I'm following. You're
Yeah.
right. Regardless of who or how many, it's a group of people coming together to receive it, to share in it, to experience it together.
You're experiencing it together.
Yeah, and I think there's something, since we're speaking of the psychology of it, we already spoke on the joy of sharing, the community, but I suppose at our core, there's something, some would call it spiritual, some would just scientifically explain it with, the way our neurons are connecting and our brain works, but there's something about a community, right? That's what we find even at concerts, right? And not just in religious circles, even at concerts where there's this energy in the room from people all cheering for the same artist, or they're all loving the same music, or they're all, windmilling and headbanging to the same song that may mean different things to different people, but it's all bringing them together for the same cause. Mm-hmm. And I think you're right, because that's increased, perhaps especially in 2020, when, you couldn't go really to places much anymore. You couldn't go to those concerts. Now people are getting a little bit of that sense of, I'm alone, but I'm not alone anymore.
Yeah, like a pseudo community.
Yes.
I mean, there still is a sense of community. Like, I still feel connected to certain people, like through my community. I don't necessarily know them, as well as they might know me because of what I've shared online, because I don't have a relationship. Right. Like, it's a very one-sided relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
But there is definitely a sense of community. It's just different.
Agreed.
It's a different size. I don't even know if I would say it's worse. It's just different.
It's different. I like that. I think that's a really optimistic way to look at that. It's not necessarily worse. It's just different. What would you say, since it's different, is a difference where we have to watch out, right? Where could there be a trap? I don't know if that's the right word. The downfall, the downside of, because it's a different type of community, of missing certain things that we need as people. How
I don't know the answer to that, because I think only history will be able to tell that. Because I, again, am a big fan of history, and you look back in history, we've always had these big revolutions, whether it be the Industrial Revolution or whether it be the Neolithic Revolution, whatever the case is, and there were always people that embraced it and always people that didn't embrace it. And what that means is, like, and there were harmful aspects of it and beneficial aspects of it. The Industrial Revolution, when farming, if I'm correct with this phrase, if it's the right revolution that I'm thinking of, I know the Agricultural Revolution is what I'm thinking of. When farming went from like two guys and like a shovel to like, hey, let's use a tractor. There were a lot of people, I'm assuming, that were like, well, we've always done it this way. Why would we change? It's always, for all eternity, it's always been this way. Why now change? Right. I mean, you could look back at Uber or anything like that. And there's always, when the internet came out, people say, oh, it's just a fad. Like, oh, the tractor's just a fad. It's, or there were people that poo-pooed it, and there were people that embraced it. And the people obviously that embraced it succeeded. Now, it definitely, affected jobs, because what took 50 men before now took only 2 men. But jobs change, because you were able to. I think that so many people only focus on the negative. Personally, I don't know if you've gotten this by now, but I'm a raging optimist. Yeah,
it's wonderful.
I think that so many people only focus on the negative, and what I mean by that is, like, you look at, let's go back to the Agricultural Revolution. Okay, it used to take 50 people to harvest this field. Now it only takes 2. Right. So now 48 people are laid off. But because you're able to be so much more productive, you're able to produce so much more food, right? So now all this extra produce is produced, and you need somebody to process that produce. So it didn't necessarily get rid of all these jobs. It just shifted these jobs from here and created new jobs over here. Okay. And I think that so much, personally, I think that AI and technology and social media, they all get that bad rap of, oh, it's doing all these bad things over here, but it's also, I think, creating all these things over here and shifting jobs or shifting opportunities. Like, you and I would have never met in any other world. True. 40 years ago.
That's very true. Yeah.
So
that's a good mindset to have. I think that's a really good mindset to have, because I think it also speaks for the resilience of humanity, or those who are willing to adjust and to keep evolving. And I guess, just see where that goes. That's really profound. That's so interesting. I'm really, really glad I reached out to you for an interview, because there's just so many interesting
Thank you.
aspects to come at it from. My other question, and one of my last questions, I don't want to keep you too long. I appreciate your time.
I have plenty of time. I scheduled an hour for this, so I don't know however many questions you have, so you're good.
Thank you so much. Since you are also an artist and a musician, how do you think that reaction or review videos affect musicians? Have you seen any impact for yourself?
I very much appreciate this question. Okay. I have never personally seen an artist be offended by a reaction video. Of course, like, you know, depending on the content of what's being said, but even still,
right.
like, if it's a positive review, right? But the fans are always very interesting because they're like, you're stealing from the artist. This is there's no creativity in this. You're just rip-off artist, and I find that really, really fascinating because as an artist myself, I'd be honored if anybody took the time out of their day, whether it's to get views or not. Like, obviously, you know, we react to certain artists because of the views. Like there'd be no point to doing it if you're just gonna do it and get 0 views. I mean, yeah, you get this point of the satisfaction of creating for yourself. Right. I get it, but if you're trying to grow a business, like you gotta kind of to some degree go where the I say to some degree because you pander to the views, because to some degree you do that, but also I found like you have to do what fulfills you, because if you only pander to the views, that's the fastest way to burn out from experience. Okay. So if you continue just to do whatever pleases people and you don't actually enjoy it, it's a surefire way to burn out. But that being said, I've found that like it's personally, I view it as free promotion for the artist. It's just another way for the artist to get out there and share your music with, or ship the music being shared. And I don't see it any different than other than the fact that it's at a mass scale now than a review in the Rolling Stones magazine. That's
a great example.
I don't see how it's any different than anybody saying, "Hey, this is the song." The only difference, I guess, could be the fact that you're not sharing the actual song, maybe in the Rolling Stones magazine interview, but it's really no different than, I think, just putting the artist out there personally.
I think you're right.
I actually think it's a very, very poor argument when people say you're just stealing other people's content.
I 100% agree with that. And quite frankly, even magazines or even companies such as the Rolling Stones that would share reviews are still profiting. They're still profiting off of their reviews.
Exactly.
It's quite frankly,
very much so.
Yeah. To put it on even in smaller scale, it would be similar to a friend going to another friend saying, "Listen to this song.
100%.
This is amazing. This makes me feel this way. I thought about this when he said that, or she sung about this." We're sharing, and I don't see any harm in it being for a profit. There's a verse that says a worker is worth their wage. If people are putting in there, it's still, while it's another person's song, it's still the intellectual property of the person reviewing it. It's still your ideas, what you like with art, right? It's subjective, what you perceived, what you put on your heart, or the education that you've done, you know, the things you've taught yourself that you have now the qualifications to speak on. And quite frankly, with the way that YouTube is set up, they're going to make sure that the artists get their cut if their song is being used. I mean, to be quite honest, I think a lot of people don't recognize or realize that a lot of reaction channels can't monetize on a large portion of their videos because of copyright claims.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about that. You mentioned you if I heard you correctly, I think you said that you found my channel through the reaction dispute claim.
I think so. Yeah, when I was trying to catch up on, because I am subscribed to your channel, and I have been before I reached out to you. But I was trying to remember, just even going through some of your I don't know if discography would be the right word, or your videography. I did see that one video about copyright claims, and I think that may have been one of the first videos I saw that brought me to you when I was researching information for my own creations.
Yeah, absolutely. So
on the copyright
how is that going? I'm curious, your copyright claim journey.
Honestly, videos such as yours are helpful just in understanding the way the system works. It's going okay. I mean, there's still several videos that get the claims, and for a while, to be honest, it was the claims. The amount of claims was so much that YouTube didn't even want to give me the option for memberships, and that was finally released recently. I reached out to them, and I don't know if they reviewed it, but eventually that was opened up, and I was able to start memberships for people to join my channel now. But I'm trying a mix. To your point earlier, I try to do things that are relevant. I have to do better with that, to be honest. But I try to bring in some relevant things. I try to honor requests that I receive, or things that come across my algorithm that seem interesting. And plenty of them get claims. I try to dispute them all. What has been cool in the process, what has been helpful is through this whole process, I have been able to get connected with a few label companies. One company that reached out to me actually, and they, I suppose, were grateful for, is perhaps the best word, that when I disputed it, I was politely just asking for them to remove the claim, and I guess they liked how I approached it. And the one of the managers who I'm planning to interview as well, because he works with a lot of big artists, he said that it was refreshing.
Are these
because
major
I suppose,
labels?
Some of them are they're more like independent.
Okay.
This one company works with artists like Adam Calhoun, Tom McDonald, Ren, a lot of like rock and punk and whatnot. And then another company is quite large that works with rock bands like, they've been around since the 80s or 90s. They work also independent though, work with bands like Falling in Reverse, and they used to work with the Wheelers and just a lot of different, again, rock or punk or whatnot. Not quite the big ones yet, but we'll see what doors open.
Hey,
I'm trying to be. Go ahead.
I've heard of YouTubers getting in contact with the major labels like UMG or whatever the case is. I don't know if you're like familiar with Blake McLean. Have you seen this channel yet?
No, the name sounds familiar though, but not really.
He's another musician, but does a good amount of reaction videos, and he's mentioned that at times in conversations that I had with him that like he's had some sort of contact with the labels. I personally never really got in contact with them, so I'm impressed that like that's very cool that you have. But it is possible. I only say that it is possible that you have like to get connections somehow. Some way.
I think and to be honest, like in this one case, they reached out to me because they were just letting me know, hey, we're happy to release the claim. We appreciated how you asked. I guess sometimes they get comments like, "You greedy money hoarding evil people, release my claim," and I guess that type of attitude from content creators, I guess it was refreshing to have a respectful request of it being removed. And so it led to this conversation, it led to this conversation of networking to the point where they arranged an interview for me with Ren, where they what was it? They said, okay, these are the artists we work with, so if you ever do a reaction to some of this, then we'll make sure to release the claim for you. And it has started this working relationship.
Absolutely.
I think, and that was more, it started with them, but then of course I tried to keep fostering that.
Yeah.
But my experience is, and I suppose that's where optimism comes into play, is it's been exciting for me to build muscle memory to just put myself out there, emailing different people, reaching out, at times just jumping into the cold water, even though I've kind of felt like, am I good enough, if you will, for them to want to speak to me or want to respond? And instead of having that mindset of, I'm not ready for this, who am I? Being like, no, let me reach out. Let me see what happens. The worst that can happen is nobody answers or they say no. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. I'm sorry. But why were we going down that rabbit hole? Why did I say all that? Yes. You asked how I found you or which video, how that's going, the copyright. So long story short, I'm sorry, is that I'm experiencing both. Still a lot of claims.
Everything?
Yes, I try to dispute everything, and sometimes, thankfully, it just expires. Those 30 days pass, and it's released. At times, it's declined, and then other times they seem to be okay with it. It's really a mix. I haven't looked at the percentage of how much is claimed.
This is just an interesting side note. I've had an interesting experience recently. I've been doing this for 4 years now. Okay. Very consistently. And I just, within 3 months, 2 months ago, started, on occasion, appealing claims at the recommendation of somebody else. And I would never, ever, ever wanted to touch that because it was like the whole strike thing. And I was like, I just had no interest. And I was like, it's not, the gain on it is not worth the risk. The risk. Right. And somebody had said that they were having success with it. And like their process essentially was saying that they would appeal it, it would get declined, then they'd appeal it again, and then they would win, or they get a strike and then they'd win, and the strike would be removed. And I was like, that's really interesting. Like, I don't know. I tried it on a couple of videos, and when you compare certain aspects of their channel versus my channel, theirs is a lot more, oh wow, this is a really cool video kind of thing. Not necessarily. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have the same depth, I think, personally. Yeah. So what was interesting to note is that I never received any strike at all, period. And I've won a couple of appeals. At this point, like maybe 8 to 10 appeals. I haven't done a ton of them. I'm just kind of dabbling because I don't want to, I do 1 or 2 at a time at most because the whole 3 strikes you're out kind of thing. Like I'm like if I got a strike, I don't want to have more than 2 at a time, right? Ever. So I was just dabbling here and there, and it's a whole like a week long process or something like that. That you this appeal it, they have 7 days to respond, and only like 1 out of like the 10 that I've done has the person said, "Hey, we still agree with our previous decision, so you can either leave it as is, and that's fine, or something else, and that'll result in a strike." And I had the choice to choose, and I said, "Okay, I'll just leave it as is," and it remained ineligible.
Okay.
But on all the other ones, they just released it, and it was
And
just
whenever
very interesting.
that is really interesting.
And I didn't receive any strike.
Really? And once
take
it's
that
released,
with a tremendous grain of salt, because
yeah,
I don't,
of course,
you know,
it could be different for everybody. In my case, they might, just kill me now. But okay, that's really interesting to hear, though. And I'm assuming correctly that whenever a claim is released or the appeal is accepted, the video is yours. You're good to go in regards to monetization and such.
I mean, I have so many videos that I've been posted for at this point several years that I've seen every once in a while a video get reclaimed.
Yeah,
I don't know why. It's an algorithm, so it's not perfect.
Right.
I do know that the people just like that when you dispute it, it actually typically goes to a real person. Like I had a friend actually that worked for a company that was that person that would review all these.
Nice.
So not related to YouTube. He works for a separate company, a distribution company.
Okay.
So that
but
being
he had
said,
insight into that.
Yeah,
side of the
and,
world.
and he, exactly. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It may be worth. I would recommend doing it on the ones or testing it on the ones that like are some of your major videos, like that.
I was thinking the same thing.
And it's been interesting. It's a little kick in the butt because it's like, oh shoot, like if I had just done this earlier, like.
Yeah,
I missed out on a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's
a lot of
money. That's what I'm thinking now because I'm thinking once if that works and it's released, all the views that have occurred up to this point are not eligible or monetizable.
It's not retroactive. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's the word. Oh boy! Wow, man. Maybe I've missed out on a lot of money.
I definitely have. So who knows?
Like a horse.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
Learn.
But you know what? Though? Exactly. And whatever. Like it is what it is. Like.
Yeah.
I can't change it, so why be pissed off about it?
That's a good perspective. You are really a raging optimist. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so you were speaking on how the fans may have that critique of taking away from the artist, but you feel like it adds to it. And if you look at, let me gather my thoughts. I'm sorry.
You good?
What has been for your creations, for your videos, what has been based on your experience your best performing videos, and why do you think that is? Content, either music or reaction. Any of your work.
Best answer, very very insightful answer out of a lot of research is, I don't know. I really don't know. The algorithm is a very strange thing. Mm-hmm. I do have a real answer for you, but like to be honest with you, like certain songs that have done well or music videos that have done well, like significantly outperformed others by like 100x.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. Like there's 1,000 different reasons. Did it connect on a different level? Was it the right song at the right time? Was the music video better? Like I think this music video is better, but it has not even a third of the view. Like why? Okay. I don't know.
Okay.
For example, I have a song called "Even in the Wild." The music video did exponentially well than any of my other songs, and the song is very, very, very simple. The music video is very, very, very simple compared to so many of my other stuff that I put a lot more work into, and it's just, I don't know.
Interesting.
On the other hand, speaking to like reaction videos, I think a lot of it has to do with the content that you're putting in the video, as well as the value of the video that you're providing for the viewer, and also the timeliness to some degree. But I think it's a mix of all things. So I say timeliness, for example, Taylor Swift released a new song. Well, the day she releases it might be a good day to do it. However, if your video is there's enough value in your video, I don't necessarily think that the timing is as important as I thought it was. I used to be like, oh my gosh, I gotta get up really, really early because I know so and so is releasing a song, and it helped. You know what? Let me take that back. I think it might help a lot smaller channels. I say that with humbly. Like I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I have. But I put in a lot of work to get here, and I think that actually might have helped because when people are searching for that song at 6 o'clock in the morning when they're waiting for the school bus,
it's the first.
If you're the first one that's posted,
absolutely.
that helps.
Puts you on the map.
Exactly. If you have 500 subscribers, your video is going to get. If you wait too long, you're 500 subscribers.
Yeah.
I don't really know if it's a lot harder to work from down here to move yourself up as opposed to be the number one and then slowly move down.
Of course,
Now,
because you already have a level of subscribers and people and eyes on you. That I think is already beneficial.
Well, no, yes, I mean, yeah, but
for
I'm
the
saying
big for the big channels.
Yeah, and I'm saying though, like when you post first as a smaller channel, you're already up here, and
yes.
as the bigger channels post, then you're getting kind of bumped down.
Yes, I see.
But
now.
as opposed
to
they've already posted, and now you're down here. You're trying to work your video has to be really, really good for the YouTube algorithm to say, oh, people are watching this video a lot, and then I'm
following.
So.
That makes sense.
That being said, now that I built the platform, though, I do think that there is a little bit more grace in the timing. I don't have to necessarily be the first one because I think that there's a track record that says, hey, people typically like to watch these videos that he releases on this subject, and there's a little bit more grace. But I think that the value to the viewer is really important. For example, I've cut out all my intros. Like, people didn't really care that I was a musician. I would tell them all about my songs. I'd be like, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jacob Restituto. I'm a musician from New York. And I say, I have a new song that just came out. I just go kind of on this 1 or 2 minute rant of like what I've been up to and what I want them to, like make sure you subscribe and check out the Patreon. And like, nobody cared. Like it didn't necessarily increase the viewership of my other songs. Like the people that were interested in me and like genuinely interested in me stuck around and watched my other videos and realized I was a musician and supported me that way.
Right.
So like at this point, my reaction videos are a very quick 10-second intro of, hey, my name's Jacob Restituto. I'm a musician from Northwood, New York, and today we're reacting to Olivia Rodrigo. We're talking about her at the Grammy Museum, and one thing I found really interesting about, like, straight into the video, like just cutting out all this stuff, because I don't really care when I watch other people's stuff. I just fast forward through all of it. In fact, some of the channels that I watch that have a literally 4-second intro of like a little logo coming up, I'm like, that just wasted 4 seconds of my time. Like it doesn't benefit me at all.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, and I think because we humans our attention spans seem to be getting shorter, but we also have access to things quicker. There's no need, right? I mean, why would I make myself wait if I don't have to, right? If I can use the microwave or if I can scroll quickly to get to what I want, why, travel?
I guarantee
by
if you
horse
look at your
and
analytics,
carriage.
Exactly. If you look at your analytics, the first 30 seconds of your video starts here. The retention rate graph goes here. And it comes back up and then slowly starts to go back down. I guarantee that every single one of your videos looks like that.
100% agree. Totally.
Mine look like that.
True. Right.
Mine look
I think
like that still.
The majority, because nobody, like, people just want to get to certain, even when it comes to the parts that are replayed, that's also interesting to me.
Oh,
how people pick certain points. I don't look into my analytics enough, to be honest with you. I have to get more into the business side of it. I think that would be helpful on my part. But it's interesting to see that too, how the analytics allow you to check which has been replayed and to look at what stands out to people most, what is most replayed or most listened to of the whole piece, even if it is in the meat part of the review and the reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's also an interesting aspect, psychologically speaking. Like, what is it in people that they want to pick something out? And now you said, that you don't really have an answer for which videos do best, because I guess the analytical system, the algorithm is quite complex. But when it comes to your comment section, to the feedback you get from your community, are you able to see what resonates most with people based on how they feel, how they respond to you, or is it also a hit or miss?
Yes and no. I think that how do I want to phrase this? The amount is the only thing that really changes. Typically I'm really grateful, like when I do release a song, 99% of the comments are very positive. It's very rare that'd be like, oh wow, this song really sucks. And I've gotten them, but whatever, who cares? Like, at this point my skin is thick enough to really not care. I've done this for long enough that I'm like, okay, whatever, I really don't care. It is what it is. Yeah. Now if it's somebody's like opinion that I actually valued, it was like, hey, this song could be better, it'd be like, oh well, like, please tell me more. Like,
right.
But if it's just a shallow, your song sucks, like, oh, okay, I really don't care. But that being said, I'm really grateful. Like, most of the comments are really positive, so I found that when a song does better, it's just more positive comments. So it's not necessarily insight into why the song is doing better than others. Because a song that has 500 views could be like, wow, this really touched me. You really hit this on the head. Yeah. But then a song with 50,000 views would be just 100 more. Wow, this really touched me. You hit this on the head. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
it just.
Okay.
But even looking at the analytics of like, why did this song? Because I love that. Again a businessman. Period. Like, you know, maybe even to some degree before a musician, I'm a businessman.
Okay.
And I like the analytics and looking at those. It's like, why did this song do so much better? And like, there is an answer. Like, oh, it was like people clicked on it more. But like, why? And like the answer to that is like, unless I interviewed 50,000 people as to why you clicked this video as opposed to not this video, like there's really no hard answer. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. That makes sense. I guess there's a lot of fluidity. Interesting. My final question, and I'll be honest, it is loaded because it'll help me give information when I do look at some of your work because it's on my radar to maybe react to one of your songs at some point.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So me asking this is gonna help me. So just full transparency, but I do want to know what you as an artist feel makes the best reaction video or analysis. As an artist, when you have someone review your work, and again, of course, this information helps me to know what you care about, but as an artist, what is important for someone who creates, who puts their work out there, right? As an artist, it's sometimes wearing your heart on your sleeve, or it's your intellectual property, it's your hard work, right? That you're putting out there for other people to listen to, enjoy, to critique. When people react, we kind of expose ourselves in a way, right? We are on the chopping block. And you said you've gotten thicker skin, so it's whatever if they don't like it. But what is important to you if someone is to analyze and react in this day and age of reaction world?
I
from
think
the
honesty.
artistic side.
Very simple answer is I think honesty. I want an honest answer.
Yeah.
Now,
That's cool.
if you watch my reviews, like I am very positive. I'm never like, oh, this song sucks. You know, I've personally listened to a lot of stuff that I don't enjoy, but I can always find something that it's like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Or this is really unique, right? Especially if it's just not my taste in music, but there's always something that can be learned from it, or that's a really cool lyric or rhyme or whatever. You can find something. Yeah. But I also will say, I don't like the way that this is personally mixed. I would have done this slightly differently, you know, or I'm surprised that they chose that line. Mm-hmm. Look, to be completely honest with you, I hope to one day be friends with some of these artists that I'm reacting to. So I don't want to say anything that'll put my foot in my mouth 10 years from now or 5 years from now and be like, hey, you really like, you know, put me on the chopping block back then. Like, you know, like, and I don't want any of that. So like, I'm conscious of what I say. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I want honesty. Like if this could have been done better. Like I think it's all how you say it too.
Of course, yeah.
Like, this
delivery.
song sucks versus like this was really cool. This part was really cool, but I think this part could have been rearranged differently, or like just a thoughtful comment. You know.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's also more mature than just saying this song sucks. I mean, because it's easy to just hate things, but there's a difference between critiquing and constructive criticism or feedback.
Absolutely.
Because it's still subjective at the end of the day. Even a person saying,
Absolutely.
I feel like he could have done this or that is still very subjective. So
100%.
That's
and
really
a why,
interesting.
maybe. I think a why at the end of that. No, it's like I think
as
he
the why
could have done. Like I think he could have done this differently because it would have made me feel this way, or it would have then this would have happened. And, you know, like as opposed to just I think he should have raised the hi-hats. Cool, but like why do you think that?
Why?
Like, because then the rhythm of the hi-hats counteracting with the rhythm of the bass would have been really cool, and then you get this cool, like, you know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like there's actual purpose again, which kind of takes us full circle in our conversation. There's a purpose, there's a reason. That's awesome. Jacob, I have so appreciated and enjoyed talking to you. You're very insightful, and I admire everything you like are doing. It's like, man, they talk about success. So
I appreciate that. Thank
grateful for your time today and for sharing, giving us insight as a creator, as an artist yourself, but also as someone who creates analysis and educational videos. Appreciate you, and make sure everyone watching this to subscribe to his channel. I'll link it below. Thank you so much for your time, Jacob.
Absolutely. Can I just say one more thing at the end of that?
Please share anything. Absolutely.
You mentioned something very interesting, like, you know, my success, and I just find that really interesting. Whoever ends up watching this at the end, I don't know how you're going to chop this up or whatever the case is, but I think success is really subjective, and I think that so many people put their happiness in success, and they say, when I get to that level, then I'll be happy. And as somebody that has lived like that, it really is not fulfilling. Because I would have thought very much so that when I had 100 subscribers, that at the 150,000 subscribers, I'd be a lot happier. And I am, but not because of that. I'm happier because of the life I have outside of that. And I think that we put way too much pressure. And in fact, actually, it leads to a lot of unhappiness if you put your value in that. Yes. So I think that success is a very, very scary metric to like put your happiness and your self-worth on. So whoever that was meant for watching this, how should people find their happiness then, since we're speaking about psychology and, media? What direction would you point people to? What fulfills a person, if not achieving? I would say, so I think the answer personally for me is I'm a Christian. So I find purpose in God and my relationship with him. And I think that a lot of things stem from that. Okay. That's my personal answer. That this life isn't everything that there is, I believe. So it takes a lot of pressure off of it. And not this like, I try, and I'm very much not perfect in this, because it leads to a lot of stress, in my life, and I'm working on it. But when I put my value in the metrics, I become very, very unhappy. Okay. So that's my personal 2 cents.
I think that's awesome. I really, really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing and for your time today. I love the insight you bring to the table. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on the next ride. Thanks for coming, Jacob.
Thank you so much for having me.